enjoy while it rolls through. While we have the slideshow going, we're going to have a few guest speakers come up and speak about Ian and Glenda. So first of all, I would invite Chris and Mark Simpson to come up and have a few words about the olds. We appreciate you making the effort to come down, so come on up. We'll see if we can get the two microphones going.
That won't work.
All right, so give your mic a try and see if that works.
Testing.
Yep.
We're
Awesome.
Okay. Right, so this is my best Paul Holmes impersonation. So, Chris, perhaps you could tell us about the early years growing up in the Simpson household. What was it like?
Yeah, well, the early years, my memory was probably going to Cromwell, actually, preschool. I think I got lost a couple of times and got expelled from kindy. Stress you guys out.
I got expelled from Scouts.
Poor family.
Dad taught at Cromwell High School during that time, and yeah, my memories, we loved Cromwell. It was actually a great place to grow up as little kids.
Now, you were a sportsman of some repute, but I understand that Ian might have coached Mark in one of the cricket teams as a youngster. What was that like, having the old man, was it the Otago under-16 cricket team?
Yeah, there was probably a number of cricket teams Dad used to coach. He was always very, very supportive of what, as a player, but the practice afterwards, if you failed, was hours and hours on a clothesline with mum's stockings and a cricket ball in it, going round and round on the old rotary line. So just making certain we get the technique right.
Now, I've got a question for you, Mark. Did you ever beat Ian's high score of 136?
166.
Oh! Go on! Get your facts right.
Detective the longest you
Yeah, detective.
Yeah. Didn't last long, did it?
lasting quite a while.
Yeah. No. I ended up not 166, but I did get to 137 not out though.
He was not out.
Maybe I didn't want that
It's not too late.
Is there anyone, just to check, is there anyone here that can verify Glenda's story?
Yeah, we don't need to. She's on the couch.
Yeah, no.
All right. Okay, guys, thanks very much for coming. We appreciate the efforts that you've come down here and share it with the olds. If there's anything you'd like to say before you...
Yeah, I just would like to comment on the old man's togs. I don't know about that. I'm feeling a bit embarrassed. Did you see that, those togs? Yeah, I'm not... That's not really what you're doing, Dunedin. No, but I just would like to say thanks to Chris for organising all of this. Really, really appreciate it. We just think it's fantastic. We obviously love Dad. I think he's been like a dad to a lot of young men, and you know, we had no pressure put on us at all. We just enjoyed life, and he's an all-round great guy and a great dad. And you know, I've tried to be a dad too, to meet up to this man, but he's been an amazing, you know, father, and I think the way he's dealt with all young men, it's been pretty awesome. Thank you.
One guy that can't be here tonight is Tony Oles, who was Ian's first head boy after Glenn Denham in 1983, and I'd invite Graham Helm to come up, please, and relay a message from Tony on behalf of Tony, who's overseas at the moment. So Helm, if you can come up, please, and pass on the message from Tony.
Don't do a hammy.
Oh, yeah.
Walk slowly.
The hammy went.
Well, Tony was a fellow First 15. Sorry, Tony was a fellow First 15 1982 member. He was a winner, and he scored a try on Victoria Square against Buller High when we curtain raised the
Australia.
Wallabies Buller. So that was going back to 82, which was a pretty special time. But Tony just asked me to say a few words. So, tēnā koe e hoa. This is Tony speaking. This is Tony speaking to you, Ian. I joined Kings in 1982, the same year you became resident. I was only there for Forms 6 and 7, but there was plenty of time for you to leave a great impression on me. And I'm not talking about the cane. It was my privilege to be head boy in 1983, the first appointed under your watch. Between shaking Lady Di's hand and meeting the Archbishop of Canterbury, which is quite impressive, I learned a new style of leadership from you. One of caring, coaching guidance. Ian, those were impressionable years, and those lucky enough to get this stare will have really benefited from it. I know I have. Ngahimi, Yuriki.
Okay, so following on from the speeches from the head boys, our next guest speaker in the red corner, weighing in at 110 kilos, 5'10", the beehive bouncer, the Right Honourable Grant Robertson.
Thanks, Chris. I'm glad those scales are the old ones. Kia ora, ngā mihi nui ki koutou katoa. Greetings, everybody. An absolute honour for me to be here tonight. I just wanted to acknowledge Nick's words about the school. I was listening to that school and thought that the joke we all used to tell, which was that we came from the Bayview Road Academy for Young Gentlemen, turns out to be true nowadays. It's always a great time to come back and see everybody here. I've got a few stories and I'm wondering about them now because everyone else has been quite serious and nice. So take it as it's meant. No, I was head boy in 1989 and you'd obviously been in charge of the school for a few years by then and things were running well. It was a tight ship. You were occasionally let down by your staff. I think that's fair to say. I'm sitting at a table tonight with John Cushion. And we all looked up to John as a teacher because he was still playing first class cricket when he was teaching us. And he was chosen for the Otago team one year. And unfortunately the selection and the celebration for that coincided with the junior drama evening, and Kush was playing guitar on American Pie for the entire 3rd and 4th form to sing. And he did eventually make it to the junior drama evening, and he can't be struck off the teaching register now for what I'm about to say. He gave a pretty enthusiastic rendition of American Pie, complete with a few swear words. And we all wanted to be first class cricketers after we saw him. Paul O'Connor is here, and I need to get my insults in before he stands up and talks. The main thing I remember about Paul was that his focus on the curriculum was extraordinary, and you'd instilled that at your staff to the extent that he spent most of his lessons in history telling us about his ancestor Rory the Twit. So that was Paul. Thank you for that. And actually, noting Matt Henderson's presence here, and Matt, it is actually really lovely to see you here. Matt coached Nigel Hunter, who's sitting over there, and I at cricket, and he had some concerns about our fielding, and so he decided we'd play a game which you'll be very familiar called Donkey, where, if you catch the ball it's okay, but if you drop it you get a D and an O. But Matt decided it would be more motivational if the word wasn't donkey, but rather hopeless. And unfortunately, Matt, I think we got there quite quickly. But again, a tight ship you were running. All of the staff. Another staff member at the time was Glenda. Glenda, I don't know what your job description was, but you were always at school and running around essentially after all of the other staff who weren't doing their jobs properly. So that was great. No, they were all wonderful. I want to acknowledge others, including Noel, who's already been mentioned, who I totally endorse the way that you were able to relate to the kids, as everybody was when I'm being completely serious about it. But it was a remarkable time to be at school. I feel like the teachers that we had and the team that you brought together was outstanding. And that's the first thing, Ian, I want to note is the real sign of leadership is not the grandiose speeches or the big gestures. It's the team that you bring together around you. And that, for me, as somebody who's ended up in various leadership type roles, I saw that in you, that you got the strength from the people who were with you, and that is the strongest and bravest form of leadership, is empowering those people, even if occasionally cushion went off the reservation. So it was still amazing. You also, this will surprise some of you, possibly your kids particularly, you were also a fashion leader during our time at school, particularly on the night of the school formal in 1989, where we'd really souped things up and we'd gone to the University Union for the formal. And I understand there may have been a staff gathering before the formal, I don't know whether this is true or not, but you and I, in an old tradition, stood by the door and welcomed the couples as they came in. And and I'm not going to name him, he's dead, and I'm not going to name one of my fellow seventh formers had been a part of our very quiet dinner celebration at Chan's Garden Restaurant. And it was slightly the worse for wear, and when he was attempting to introduce his partner to you, he got rid of what he'd had. And it was only at that moment that I looked at your shoes, and I noted that you were indeed wearing two grey shoes, but they weren't exactly matching. and you know, I feel that leadership and fashion helped. Also, you feature in a very important moment in New Zealand political history, which is that at the end of fifth form, you were very, very keen that I continue to study mathematics. I was less keen about that idea, and we had a bit of a to and fro, and eventually I came up with what I considered to be a marvellous compromise, which was that I would do 6 subjects, but I still wouldn't do maths. And you agreed. And what could have happened? If you'd made me do maths, the economy would be in a great state. Because Heck Broward's here. I only did economics in third form, and so the entire country's economy is based on a book called Paradise Island. You both changed the course of history in one way or another. The second element I wanted to just mention, and it's been mentioned a little bit before, is the sense of family. I think that's what you created when we were at school. We felt like a family, you know. There were grandparents like Paul O'Connor, but there was a genuine feeling that we were together, and you particularly exemplified that with my family, Ian, and the difficulties happened when Dad went to prison. And you know, Dad had been the chair of the Board of Trustees along with Mark and Nigel's mum Pat, and with Ted as well. And the extraordinary ability you had to support people and make them feel loved is something I will never ever forget. I will allow myself one other story which involved which was in 1990, after a lean 15 years without a win against Otago Boys in the inter-school. The Kings was playing Otago Boys on the field, on the number 1 field. It was a very, very close game, and it was 15-13, I think, to Kings. And the clock was winding down. There was about 3 or 4 minutes to go. And my father, as many of you will know, was a rugby referee, and he was running the touch, which was an outrageous thing to begin with. I don't know how that was allowed. The referee was a guy named Dave Barnett, and he wandered over to Dad, King's defending on the line, 3 or 4 minutes to go, and says to Dad, oh Doug, my watch is broken. How long is there to go? And my father looked and went, that'll about do it, Dave. He did that out of his loyalty. What you encouraged us to. Ultimately, the third thing, along with that sense of how you build a team and the family notion, was a pride. We were proud to go to Kings. And I don't know, maybe there was a few people a few years earlier who struggled a bit with that, but when you were around Dunedin, and even when you were outside of Dunedin, you were proud to go to Kings, and you did that.
think your old man might have got one back, Grant, because in 1982 we lost to Otago Boys by about 2 points, and the referee was a guy Renton, who was an old boy from Otago Boys.
No, his son's went there.
So, good on your old man for shoring up the ship. Now, our next guest speaker was heard to mutter those memorable words, "Get that bloody thing away from me." And no, Mum, it wasn't Glenda on a wedding night. It was actually Kelvin who was destined to go and visit Ian to receive a dose of the old cane. So, without further ado, I'd invite Kelvin to come to
Finally made it.
Thank you, Chris. Look, it's a wee bit awkward for me. I only spent a couple of months with, can I call you sir? The rector, before he realised that he needed to remove some cancer from the school. I gave him all the names of my friends. And he included me in there. The funny thing was that it was I only had one term, the first term of the sixth form for me, where Mr. Sir had taken charge, and I got a message at the end of the, I don't know what was going on. We did a lot of things that were, well, we just don't know what we were doing. Young and silly. And anyway, one of the teachers, I think it might have been Noel Johnson, came up and said, "Listen fellas, it's school holidays coming out. I suggest you get a job. Don't come back." Well, no, that's a very good idea. So there was a bunch of us and we all did that. And so that was fine, and we went on with our lives. And it was about 15, 20 years later that I had to get might have had to get my passport. I was going to go overseas for the first time. And they said, "You need to get a leaving certificate from your school in order to put forward with all your documents." So I rang the school and said, "Look, can you send something through to me? A leaving certificate." Well, to my surprise, and to my mother's horror, there it was, black and white, expelled. You can imagine the impact it had on my psychological well-being. It was really, it's probably 20 years past so leaving school that I realised I had been expelled. The coincidence of that all of a sudden dawned on me. It had been the story of my life. And my first job that Noel had sent me off to do, get a job. I went and got a job. Shortly after that, they had said to me, "Kelvin, you need to get another job." And so it repeated itself over and over again. And I realised that, sir, he saw that in me. He realised that I needed to get out there and be told, given direction by men who knew what they were doing. "Kelvin, your time here is done, move on." And so life did, and it passed its way, and here I am now. And I just really want to say thank you. Because, sir, you started me on a wonderful journey. Had I gone back and realised and understood, who knows what would have happened. And here I am, happy as a sandal. And it's been because of you. The only other thing I'd like to say, I've never been first at anything. right here, now I can stand proud and tell you all, I was the first to be expelled.